My name's Matt Fyfe. I'm running for the United States House of Representatives in Indiana's 9th District. I am a high school teacher by trade. That's my day job.
What subject?
High school math. I don't often lead with that one because sometimes it makes people recoil, but geometry and pre-calculus usually, yeah.
How did you get involved in politics?
When my first year teaching, we were told that we had to raise test scores, otherwise we'd all get fired. And we did it, which was a policy success, right? But we did it at the expense of music classes. We spent money on calculators, tens of thousands of dollars. And we cut things like credit card units that actually gave students what I think would be really valuable knowledge after high school. And that policy success didn't feel like a success for students to me. And I think that got me on the path interested in politics in general and these policies that don't seem to be written for everyday people. And I'm also a leader in my union, and I think recently some of that attitude of you can be the one to make change, you can be the one to organize has really gotten into me, and I want to see better change and better politics.
I'm curious as to why you decided to run in the 9th District and if redistricting factored into that decision at all.
So I started before the redistricting effort, actually. I decided to run in the 9th District because I do see these federal policies, particularly in education. I think that's kind of my strong suit, that don't make sense, such as standardized testing. We don't focus on tech and trade as much as I think we should, low special education funding. And then when I look at some other policies like healthcare, raising healthy families, we just have a lot of national divisiveness right now in our politics. And I want to see more everyday people in DC. So I thought that was the right fit to run for this kind of my love for Southern Indiana and Hoosiers here to get less divisiveness in our politics.
So what makes you the right candidate for the 9th District right now?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of kind of character and reason for running, as well as experience and being able to get the job done. I don't take big money, and I have a day job, right? I'm not this career politician. And I think my intentions and my reasons for running are good, and I think most people agree with that when they kind of hear my story. But secondly, I actually have an education policy degree. I've read and written policy.
What do you think right now is the biggest issue facing constituents here in the 9th District?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the economy and quality of life. And so, yes, inflation seems to be a big deal. Gas prices, when you talk to small business owners, it's gas prices, it's some of that. But some of that leads into this quality of life issue too. So a lot of people talk about inflation when they talk about high cost of drug prices, when they talk about high cost of education nowadays, especially higher education. Housing is becoming a really large issue for people coming out of college, younger families who want to grow. Even childcare costs are becoming absorbent, right? Pretty high. And that's what I hear most from people is we feel like we're working really hard, but we're not getting ahead. And that kind of comes back to why I'm running. We seem to have politicians who I don't think are often there for everyday people or who haven't spent time on the ground in a long time. They are talking to a lot of donors, right? They're talking to a lot of special interest group and lobbyists. But we need more people who are everyday citizens and have normal jobs.
How willing are you to reach across the aisle and work with Republicans?
I'm absolutely willing. I'm here for all Hoosiers. I think at the end of the day, I don't care who the president is, I don't care who the leader of the House is. I want to get the job done, right? And I think a lot of the policies that I want, I don't think they're very partisan, right? I want better schools, I want better health care. And the way we go about that, yeah, we might argue about it a little bit, but I want to keep costs down too at the same time. I think these aren't partisan issues, and I'm willing to work at them.
This kind of feeds right into the next question. And if you were elected, what single issue or topic might rise to the top of your agenda?
So I'm going to answer that in two ways. If I could wave a magic wand, it would be campaign finance reform. It would be reform in government in general. So by getting better people there to begin with, ranked choice voting, making sure that our politicians aren't trading stocks, that sort of thing that keeps good people there, we're going to get better policies across the board. My personal interest is education and labor policy, so I think I'd sit on the Committee of Education and Labor. So helping working class folks, wages, retirement, good benefits, and then making sure we have great schools.
I do want to turn and talk about a couple issue-specific topics, and most of them are more recent and in the news. First one, kind of the topic of the whole summer, abortion. Yeah. Can you give me your thoughts on the overturning of Roe v. Wade? And do you think abortion is an issue that should be addressed by Congress at the national level?
I do. It doesn't make sense to me that geography is about to determine your health care. If you live on this side of the border of Indiana or that side over in Ohio, this in Illinois versus Indiana, people deserve good health care. Those who are able to get pregnant deserve good health care, right? And it scares me that some states are going to total abortion bans, that some states are not allowing victims who have been raped to get abortions. This sort of care is, especially in Indiana where we already have high infant and maternal mortality rates, is going to eventually hurt folks. And I've heard this from people across the district that they're angry about this, right? This decision and this reversal in taking away their rights. I talked to a woman in Scottsburg, Indiana. She's 21. She's never voted before. She has one child and she's pregnant and has another one on the way. And she looked at me in the eye and just said, I'm scared that if this bill passes and I have a complication, I'm going to leave my 1-year-old child behind, motherless. And those are the type of stories that get me. And those are the type of stories that I don't need our government telling our medical professionals when it is okay to provide care or not. They're gonna muck up the system that's adding an extra layer and it's making it unsafe for our families. And at the end of the day, I think we need to codify Roe federally. Now with that said, I also think we need to guarantee contraceptives. I think we need better parental leave policies, better child care policies. I'm all for making it easier, better OBGYN access, especially for rural areas. I think we need to make it better for families to safely and on their own when they want to have a bigger family.
And do you support Indiana's near total abortion ban?
I do not. And again, I think some of it comes down to that infant and maternal mortality rate. We're going to make it unsafe. You also look at some of the businesses that have come out and said, hey, people aren't going to want to come here. That quality of life is going down. I will also add, I don't always know that my opponents are asked this question. My Republican opponent is tied to a lot of large money groups that wanted it to be more strict. So the rape and incest exceptions, I don't know that she would be okay with that. I think she might go even further. So it is a very divisive topic, and I think people need to know where their politicians stand.
I want to turn a little bit to the Supreme Court and the upcoming session. I know it just started, but do you have any thoughts on any cases that the Supreme Court is hearing, whether they be about states' powers in federal elections or voting rights, affirmative action and college admission, or religious freedom?
Yeah, particularly the one that I think I'm most interested in or most worried about might be the states' rights, particularly for our voting. It worries me that a particular party could get in power in a state and then overturn what voters want, right? Voters say we want this to happen in the election, and the state legislator says we're gonna turn it a different direction anyway. I'm all for, I kind of said this already, but I'm all for anything that makes voting more democratic, makes it easier to get better officials in there in the first place. We need to put the power back in the hands of people, not state legislators, not politicians.
And that feeds right into my next questions, which is specifically about elections and security. And do you think that here either in Indiana or in the entirety of the United States that we need to do more to secure our elections, or are you satisfied with that?
Don't get me wrong, I think we always need to be vigilant about election security. I think there are threats from not only foreign governments, but locally as well, occasionally. But for the most part, it's been shown over and over again that our elections are safe. And I think the more I have gotten involved in this process, when I see that there are election officials, that there are county clerks, that there is a Republican and a Democrat counting those votes in the polling offices, in the booths. They just seem safe. People are there. Our local people are there working hard to make sure that they're safe.
And just to follow up to that last one on elections, do you believe that Joe Biden is the rightfully elected president?
I do, yeah.
All right, now complete change over looking at the Second Amendment now.
Sure.
A couple statistics I have here from the gun violence archives. Yeah. 519, and these might be outdated, these are as of Thursday. 519 mass shootings, more than 1,200 accidental shootings, more than 1,000 children or teenagers killed in 2022. More than half of the gun deaths have been suicide. Do you think that America has a problem with gun violence?
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, there's a problem with violence to begin with, and guns are easily accessible for many Americans who have, whether it be violent tendencies, mental illness. I grew up here in Indiana. I grew up in rural Indiana. We had guns in our house. Our neighbors had guns. Some of them use them to hunt. Some of them use them for personal protection. But they use them safely, they store them safely, they educate those around them to use them safely, and they take them away from people who are mentally ill, who aren't right in the head. And that's what I want to see more of. I want to see better background checks. I want to see background check loopholes closed. I want to see safe storage. I want to see education around guns improved. I think those are common sense measures that most people agree with. I'm not trying to take guns away from folks who are responsible gun owners. That's fine. I prefer basketball, but if you want to go out and hunt, that's great. Just use them safely. And again, like you said, so many suicides have been happening. I absolutely 100% think we also need more mental health funding and access, particularly in rural areas.
Do you support Indiana's new permitless carry law for handguns?
I do not. The statewide police officers have said that it will be harder for them to go out and police. And so I stand by the police in that statement.
I want to take a little bit of a look at inflation. It's in the news almost every single day at this point. What do you think that the United States and/or Congress should do to address inflation?
Yeah, so inflation is just kind of a worldwide issue that's hitting everybody really big right now. And it is probably the number one issue I hear, the economy and jobs and just being able to go and get groceries at the end of the day. We need to make sure that there is some stability. I think I hear from small business owners that they want to know what the next 6 months will look like, the next year will look like, especially with policy coming out of the Federal Reserve, from Congress. So I think some stability and long-term planning. Small business owners will appreciate that. I think trying to open up shipping lanes, making sure that we have products available as much as possible, again, is something I'm hearing from small business owners, restaurants, just making sure that they can get the products that they need. And additionally, I think where possible, we need to help those who need it most. So the American Rescue Plan, we had the tax credits, and these child tax credits lowered poverty rates by a ton. And it's because families were able to spend the money where they viewed it most necessary. So I think policies like this that help families, that help kids, that help those in need are also important.
I want to take a look at student loans. Recently, the Biden administration made the decision to forgive either $10,000 or $20,000 in student loans for qualified individuals. Do you support that decision? Why or why not?
I do. I looked a little bit into it, and most of the money went to people making less than $75,000 a year. And when I'm out and around the district and I'm talking to voters with student loan debt, it is what they feel like sometimes is the number one thing holding them back. And a lot of times these folks are teachers, are social workers, are nurses. There are people who are doing this public work and yet feel burdened by the education that they had to get to do that public work. And so I think we need federal student loan we need reform around the program itself to make sure that these people are getting help in the future. We also need to make sure the colleges are more affordable to begin with, right? We can't just keep putting Band-Aids on this issue, but yes, we need to help those currently who need the help, and then long term also make college more affordable.
My final issue, specific one, this is a little more fun, daylight saving time. I know that the Senate has passed the Sunshine Protection Act. House has yet to act on it. One statistic I have here is that in 2008, the U.S. Department of Energy found that the nation saved 0.5 percentage point in daily electricity use by extending daylight savings time just 4 weeks. And would you support the Sunshine Protection Act?
That's an interesting stat I haven't heard. I support not having to change the clock. I also don't love waking up when it's dark and going to work. So there's something in there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that sums up the issue stuff. I do have one final question for you, and this is also your opportunity to mention anything I might not have asked. But why should district voters choose you?
That's a great question. If you want somebody who's passionate and can do the job, if you want somebody who is not divisive but going to listen to all voters and work for their neighbors really hard, I'm your person. At the end of the day, I think I have both the integrity to get the job done. Like I said, I don't take big money, but I also have the ability to get the job done. And I think when I'm looking at politicians, that's what I want. You can go to mattfyfe.com to learn more.